Hi everybody, I'm running a little bit early. Actually, it's now just going on 12 o'clock. So hello everybody and welcome to this week's Spotfire session, and thank you so much to Brett Odgers for helping out for last week. Today I want to run you through dealing with a complaint. Somebody raised this with me recently and I thought that it's good to discuss some elements about how to make that as simple as possible for people, because complaints can be very stressful, not only for the complainant but for the person who has been complained about and for the person managing it. So there's potentially three people involved, but I'm going to focus mainly on two, and it's the person who's dealing with the complaint that we're going to be giving them some advice about how to deal with all the elements of a complaint. A complaint in itself is a conflict, because when we remember that a conflict is when something brews inside our hearts and our minds and we worry about things, then potentially that's a conflict and we're looking for a resolution so that we can settle all of that down again. And a complaint very much brings that to the fore. So one of the things that I teach people all the time is that you need to look after people. And when a complaint's made, it is no different. We need to look after the person making the complaint, but at the same time we need to look after the person who has been complained about, because they're often feeling really vulnerable at that time because somebody has said that they haven't fulfilled their duties properly or they haven't done something properly, and they can feel very stressed and vulnerable. So we need to very much look after them. The other thing that you need to be aware of as a manager leader is that dealing with complaints takes time. It is not something that you can rush. You have to spend some time to make sure that you can adequately look after everybody involved in the process. And so that is why in really big organisations they will have somebody who just deals with complaints. They'll have a complaints officer just to be able to hear the complaints. Now that would be a pretty full-on job, I reckon, to be a complaints officer when that's all you're dealing with. And the reason for that is that when a complaint is made, it's usually quite intense. So that's what we're looking at. As I look at my other screen, nothing is happening, so I have no idea whether or not people are on there or not. We'll try again. I live in hope that I can make this work, but maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, all right. So we're dealing with complaints. So today we're doing this from the position of a leader, and the first thing that's going to happen is that somebody is going to complain to you, and so we're going to think about the complainant. One of the best ways in which you can deal with complaints is to first and foremost have a policy, have a process for dealing with complaints, and let your clientele, your stakeholders, or whoever you're dealing with know that you have a process for dealing with complaints, because that way, if it's really clear what that process is, then you step them through that process and they know that they're getting a fair hearing, and they know that this is not a knee-jerk reaction to their complaint. So it's really, really good to have a policy or process. But it's also equally as good for the person who's been complained about for there to be a process, because that will make them feel more secure knowing that this is just a process that we have to go through. Complaints happen, that's not the end of the world, and we can manage this. So if you don't currently have a process for dealing with complaints, then I would strongly encourage you to spend some time thinking that through and basically writing it down and being very clear what that process is, and you can potentially work that through with your team. So okay, if we get a complaint, how are we going to deal with this, so that everybody owns that this is the process, and it's also putting everybody on notice that complaints can happen to anybody at any time, and we know in this group that this is how we're going to deal with that. So a policy, a process, something written down, you need to be able to track it. It's a risk management tool, and it's really important to have. Now if we get to deal with I'm going to put this on here and see what happens. If we deal with the complainant and their needs in the moment. So the number one thing about the complainant is that they've got a problem, and their problem is that their expectations haven't been met, that the service wasn't what they thought it was going to be, that they feel like they've been misled, they haven't been respected. There'll be a whole range of different things that might trigger a complaint. And the number one thing that you need to do when somebody complains is you need to listen, and you need to believe what they're telling you. Now, intellectually, you might disagree with some of what you're being told. You might think that it's not possible that the person who's being complained about could have done these things. There's a whole range of different things that could be going on there. But in the first instance, it is really crucial that you believe what they're telling you, because it's their truth. Once you've got to the bottom of it, once you've heard them, and when I mean heard them, you have explored the issue. So they start telling you something, you believe them. You're not making a judgment call at that time. You're not blaming anybody. What you want them to do is to tell you what's happened. So this is a sort of a fact-finding information session where you sit down with the person complaining and you ask them to tell you about the complaint. You take lots of notes so that the person knows that you're taking this seriously, and you do it on proper paper, and you are taking lots of notes, because this is going to be dealt with. This is a serious matter and you are going to respond to it. If they tell you something and you're not quite clear about it, can you tell me more about this? Can you help me understand what happened then? And just explore. Don't agree with them. Don't tell them that the other person has let them down, and don't disagree with them. Just find out the facts. Just spend time with them, finding out what was going on. Then you've got your policy and your process, and you can say to them, okay, thank you so much for bringing this to our attention. This is clearly something that's very important, and I'm going to get back to you in about 24 hours, 48 hours, a week, depending on what your timeframes are. I need to follow this up, and I need to investigate this further, and I will be in contact with you on whatever date, and I will be telephoning you, because we're going to telephone people rather than email them, because it is much more powerful to have a conversation with somebody than to send them an email saying we've investigated this and there was nothing there or whatever. You must make that personal contact, because they have made a complaint. This is serious. It deserves your attention. It doesn't matter whether you think it's trivial or not. You need to telephone them. There needs to be that voice-to-voice contact. So that's what you'll do after that. So we've listened to the complaint. We now understand what the complaint is, because we've taken a lot of notes and we've asked lots of questions, and we have greater clarity. And the reality is, it is going to come down to a whole range of different things. And the complaint is telling you there's a problem. And the problem is likely to be expectations, respect, poor communication. There'll be some level of disappointment at some stage about whatever's going on. Those are the type of things that you are going to find out. And so there is a problem because these things. So in some manner, shape or form, chances are that the organisation, the company, the business, whatever it is, may have unintentionally created this problem. They didn't mean to. There will be some other factors as well, though. So even though those things may be happening, there could be some external factors that we don't know about. So it may be that they've just gone through a rocky divorce or a separation. They're feeling very vulnerable. They don't know where to put their energy, and they see something that's minor and they blow it out of, all proportion, because they're just hurting at the moment, and everything sort of has that angst about it. So it could be a personal response to their own stuff. That could be happening. Those are the type of things that would happen. I'm just trying to think of other things, but generally there could just be other things happening in their own life which are contributing to the way in which they perceive the world at this time. And if the person is intoxicated or with drugs or alcohol, that could be affecting them as well. And that could just be prescription drugs could be having that impact. We don't know. So there could be a whole range of different things here. And that's when you're having that conversation, you're going to be just sort of testing the waters a little bit, seeing what else is going on. So if none of this makes any sense, I'd be starting to focus a little bit on external factors. What else is happening for you at the moment? You know, it sounds like you're going through a really tough time at the moment, because this has been, you've had one thing after the other, and before you know it, they'll start telling you about other things that are happening in their life, and that will give you some perspective about what's going on. So we've got the complainant. The complaint has been made, you've taken it seriously, you're not taking sides, you're not going to throw your own team under a bus. At the same time, you're not going to tell them that they don't know what they're talking about, because in that moment they have made a complaint because they think it's so serious that they are going to bring it to your attention. So you've got the opportunity to deal with it. Then we have the person who's been complained about. And this is a very stressful position to be in. Nobody likes to have a complaint raised against them. In my work in child support, when I've made decisions that people don't like, which is constant, it was very easy for people to make a complaint. So they don't like the outcome, so they raise a complaint about the way it was dealt with and all of those things. And as a general rule, all of that went nowhere. But I do know and understand the experience of being complained about. And it is incredibly stressful. You have this sense of, oh my God, what have I done? Now, I'm very good at catastrophizing, so I would have completely upped the ante. But nevertheless, it is stressful for somebody to complain about you. So we need to look after the person who's been complained about. So we need to go to them, and we need to put the information, and it's just information, to them and say, help me understand what was going on here, what was going on for you, what was happening. You haven't made a judgment call. They have not done it, or they have done it, but at this stage you don't know, because they haven't had an opportunity to answer the complaint. So you put the information to them, and you are non-judgmental. That's really important, that we're not judging people in the moment, because they're already stressed. And if there is a problem, if there's something else going on, we want to be able to help them. We want to know what that is. We don't want them to clam up and to hide. So we need to very much look after that person at that time. So we take them aside, we have the conversation, and we say, can you just help us understand what was going on here? And then once we've got a better understanding about what was going on, then we can start exploring how we might fix this. And if it is one of these four things, if it has come down to some of that, then it might be appropriate for this person to contact this person and say, look, I'm terribly sorry. I can see what's happened here. There's been a miscommunication, or I've disappointed you because this didn't happen. I'm very sorry. And when we fall on our sword, when we take responsibility for something going wrong, the other person, the majority of the time, will say, oh, that's okay, it doesn't matter, I just thought I should bring this to somebody's attention, or whatever. It's just really important that this person has an opportunity to speak to this person and not hide behind the leader, because potentially this is just a miscommunication. And if it's treated as though it's just something that's happened and it's really unfortunate, but we've sorted it, and this person makes the apology, then the complainant is far more likely to accept that. If the leader continues to have the conversation and basically acts on behalf of the staff member or the team member, then sometimes it's a bit like, this hasn't actually been dealt with at all. You're just covering for them. They don't know what's going on. So I would, when in doubt, I would get this person to speak to that person and just let them have a conversation and try and sort it out, because that is going to give you the best outcome. If it's external factors, it still could be a miscommunication. It could be that in the moment, these two people just didn't really understand what their needs were. And so again, it may be appropriate for this person to have a chat and just say, look, I understand there was a complaint. I'm really sorry. Sounds like you're going through a lot at the moment. Is there anything else I can do to help you? I'm really sorry that happened in the first place. When we say sorry, we can achieve so much. When we say, it wasn't my fault, I didn't do it, and we put the Bart Simpson approach to life, then it's much, much harder than if something else goes wrong. It is much easier to just go, yeah, that was me, I missed it. I was tired, I was run down, I was trying to do too many things at once. I just didn't see it. I didn't see it, because that happens to multiple people. Things can happen. We don't mean to. And sometimes as a leader, too many circles, too many things. As a leader, a situation like this highlights that there's something that we need to do there to make sure that a complaint doesn't happen again. Because sometimes a complaint is that perfect storm, I love a perfect storm, that just brings to a head that this has been overlooked for some time, and it took this situation to bring to our attention that there is a problem, and we need to do something about it. And people can feel disrespected because of something really minor. So it might be that there is a step in the process which didn't address their needs, that, you know, we didn't say hello properly, or we didn't check in with a person once we'd delivered some information, or whatever it might be. It depends on your circumstances. But when you do get a complaint, it is a true opportunity for you to address potentially an ongoing problem within your processes, your communication, and the way in which the business is doing things. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a reflection on this person at all. This person here could unwittingly have just done something which has triggered this to erupt and provide you with the opportunity to do something about it. So we look after the complainant. We look after them by respecting the information they've given us. At no stage blaming anybody, them or the other person. We just want to find out what the information is. We then take that information to the person who's been complained about, and we don't make a judgment. We don't have a knee-jerk reaction that says, what the hell are you doing? This person's just complained. What's going on here? We don't do that. We go to them and go, the person's made a complaint. Can you help me understand what was going on here? And we're curious. We're asking a question. We're not blaming. And they'll go, oh, this happened. You go, oh, okay, we can fix that. Assume you can fix it. Don't assume that this person has broken all the rules. Because, and this is what I keep telling people, the people go to work, they go to do whatever they do, wherever they do it, but they go to work to do their best work. People do not go to work to create complaints, to make hard work for other people, to make people's life difficult. They go to work to do their job and to do a good job. But sometimes things happen, circumstances happen, processes let us down, personalities get in the way, or a whole range of different things that happen that make it impossible to do the job without there being a complaint. Sometimes things happen that are just going to happen come what may. And if we accept that people are trying to do their best, then it's really easy to have empathy for them, because they're not trying to stuff us around. It's just something that's happened. And then we can go, okay, that happened. So how are we going to fix this? And we stay positive, and we look at what can we do to fix this, and we stay positive. And if this person can then speak to the complainant, so if the person who has been complained about can then provide an apology or say, I'm really sorry that this happened. You've highlighted something that's not working, or I realised that I didn't explain this properly, or whatever it is. If they are in a position to say they're sorry, then this complainant is generally going to be a lot happier, is probably going to stay on side with the business, the company, or whatever, because they feel like they've been respected and they've got better treatment than they've ever got anywhere else before. The leader is showing real leadership skills, because they're not saying, I'm going to rescue you. They're going to say, this happened and we're all going to own it, but this person did this, this is the person who's involved. So they're going to own it. And the leader could also then later contact this person and go, look, I understand so-and-so rang you. Are you okay with the outcome? And just follow up and make sure that everything's okay, but not rescue. If this is between these two people, then they need to deal with it themselves. Now, that's not always going to happen. That's not, there will be situations where that's not going to be possible. But if you can make that work, That would be the best way to go. I'm about to cough. I'm sorry about that. Now, somebody said something here. Oh, good. So, that's what we need to do. We need to look after people. We look after everybody involved. The complainant could be really difficult. They could be whingy, they could be loud, they could be rude, they could be all those things. Just keep going. Just remember that's their stuff. That's not your stuff. That's just their reaction to whatever's happened. It will work itself out. You just need to give them some space to vent. And once they've had that opportunity, then they're going to be much easier to work with. So that's my advice about dealing with complaints. But the number one thing to do is to preempt it. It is to ensure that you have a policy of procedure so that everybody knows where they stand when a complaint happens, and they know they're going to be respected and looked after in the process. And if your team can be involved in that process of creating the policy around that, if you don't have one now, then that is gold, because then everybody knows that one, complaints are going to happen, and two, they're going to be looked after when and if that does happen. So if you've got any queries about that, please let me know. Please PM me, and I am really looking forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you for being part of the Thrive Tribe. On the 4th of April, there's going to be a live event called the Thrive Tribe Live. And I'm going to be doing that with my friend Kate Burr. She's a comedian. And we're going to be looking at how you can use the rules of comedy to problem solve. The session's going to be called Boundaries, 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 because that's a really important part of being a good leader, is to set really firm boundaries. But one of the things that I'm really mindful of is that we work in an environment where humour and people having a laugh has sometimes been one of those things where you think, I can't do that anymore because we're all so PC and so nanny state and all of those things. Realistically, we can have a laugh, we can have fun. We just need to work out what the boundaries are around all of that. And we need to work out what are the boundaries around complaints and what are the boundaries around personal space and a whole range of different things. So we're going to be talking about boundaries in that first Thrive Tribe Live, there's alliteration for you, on the 4th of April. So that's it from me today. Have a great week, and I will see you soon. Cheers.